Women Who Kill, the House of Blood Murders. The flat on Dixon Avenue looked like any other in Glasgow's Cross Hill district. Top floor, one bedroom and barely furnished. But in October 2004, it would become the scene of one of the most frenzied and sadistic killing sprees in modern Scottish history. Inside, 3 men lay dead, stabbed, beaten, mutilated, scalded. Blood stained every surface, from the walls to the ceiling. Even hardened detectives were visibly shaken. But the killers were not faceless strangers. The prime suspect was a woman known to police, Edith Malindon, and the 2 who helped her teenage son John, and his friend Jamie Gray. Malindon, a 36-year-old thief, a sex worker and homeless drifter, had been released from prison just weeks earlier. She had nowhere stable to live, floating between the flats of acquaintances. One of those was David Gillespie, a 42-year-old man who had offered her a place to stay. On October 17, 2004, the pair had been drinking heavily. By the early hours, it turned violent. Malindon flew into a rage, grabbed a knife and stabbed Gillespie repeatedly, striking a main artery in his leg. He bled to death on the living room floor. Realising the situation was spiralling, Edith phoned her 17-year-old son John for help. When he arrived at Dixon Avenue with 16-year-old Jamie Gray, they were met by chaos. Gillespie lay lifeless, but the horror was far from over. Ian Mitchell, the 67-year-old landlord who owned the flat and lived in the same building, had seen the commotion. He offered to pay the boys' taxi fare, not knowing what was inside. Once they realised he might expose them, Mitchell was targeted too. He was beaten with a belt, stabbed, then bludgeoned to death with a metal file and a wooden plank. His head injuries were catastrophic. The final victim, 71-year-old Anthony Coyle, had locked himself in his room. He had lived at the flat for years and was known as quiet and kind, but hiding wasn't enough. John and Jamie drilled through the door to reach him. They found Coyle cowering and helpless. Gray used a golf club to rain down blows until Coyle's skull fractured. After the carnage, Malindon stumbled to a neighbour's door in a blood-soaked state, screaming that her boyfriend was dead. The neighbour, James Sweeney, followed her to the flat and was confronted with a scene he would never forget. All 3 victims were dead. Blood covered the floors and furniture. The police were called. Officers found Edith wailing beside Gillespie's body. In the hours that followed, the pieces began to fall into place. All 3 were arrested. Edith admitted killing Gillespie. John confessed to killing Mitchell. Jamie admitted to killing Coyle. The subsequent investigation revealed just how brutal the murders were. One victim had been hit more than 20 times. Another had a kettle of boiling water poured over his chest. When the case came to court, the details left the jury visibly shaken. Prosecutors described the violence as sustained and horrific. All 3 defendants pled guilty to murder. The judge handed down life sentences. In the years since, the case has retained its notoriety. Locals still refer to the flat as the House of Blood. The building was eventually sold and refurbished, but the legacy lingers. Malindon remains behind bars, having made little attempt to appeal or explain her actions. John Malindon was released in 2016, but was placed back in custody just 2 years later for breaching parole. The House of Blood killings remain one of the most disturbing multiple murders in Glasgow's recent history. A chaotic night, a drunk and angry woman, 2 teenage boys called into something far beyond their control, 3 men slaughtered, and a top-floor flat that became a chamber of horrors.